Either way, it's a can of worms, and that's what I enjoy about you, Steve.
Oh, thanks. So, yeah, I've been compared to better things than cans of worms, but hey.
It's like hitting a six out of the park, just teeing it up for him. How did the cricket go, Jonesy?
Terrible. I can't see the ball anymore, Charlie, so I'm going to have to reassess.
He scored one. Anyway, that's fine. He fielded well with the classic Jones shuffle in from the boundary. Ascot, 135. Shergar Cup, dash. Top of the betting is Rogue Lightning, 4.5. Intrinsic Bond, 6.0. Tis Marvellous, 6.5. Existence, 7.0. Bigger price is the rest. Come on, Jonesy, sell it.
Oh, this is a horse that one of my horses from Goodwood that I thought ran a cracker. Existent, who was on the wrong side. It was in the race won for the third year in a row by Lord Ridderford. And the combination of a hood and cheek pieces for the first time seemed to have a good effect on Existent, who was drawn 3, what Ralegh's Lord Ridderford and those at an advantage were drawn towards the stand side. And so that was a really good run. And he didn't get the clearest of passages through the race either. So to finish second in a competitive handicap like that, I thought was a really good effort and a return to form for a horse that's spent most of certainly the last 18 months in group races. So I think he's got a great chance, and having Tom Marquand on top is going to be a great big help, because there's always a great range of jockeys in this race. Last year, a friend of mine had a runner, and they had the Japanese jockey who couldn't speak English, and they were trying to impress on him, go flat out from the start, and it translated as go flat out to the start, and it all went wrong from there. So I think he was a little bit surprised by the instructions, but fair play to him. He followed them to the letter.
He carried them out.
The trainer and his assistant were quite amusing, going, What was he doing? As he bombed down to the start.
Yeah. Good. I am with Existent, who I think will get the pace he wants. There's this shed loads of pace on. You tend to want to be patiently ridden over the straight course at Ascot. Often works out like that here. Slight concern, he'll be nearer the rail and might not get a run, but should be okay because the stalls are stand side. Has in the past worked out the race off the rail. So I don't want to get too into that, but Existent, I think, should have this set up to suit, and the headgear combination worked pretty well last time. Charlie Post.
Yeah, not much to add. Like you say, Michaela's boy and others are drawn around him, so he should get heaps of speed to run at. So, yeah, Existent, I thought was a really good bet in this, 7.0.
And Ed. Yeah, I was going to roll the dice, one last dice with Tis Marvellous, who, let's face it, the wheels have kind of only come off, like the hubcaps have come off and rolling down the street this season. I mean, I don't think Tis Marvellous has beaten a rival home so far this year, but coming back here just has an outrageous record at Ascot. 4 wins and a second over course and distance, very much on home turf here. And I just thought returning to this venue with, again, talking about the ground, it seems there's going to be more cut in the ground at Ascot than perhaps some of the other courses on Saturday. This horse won't mind that at all. There's plenty of form with soft in the going description. So, yeah, one last kind of roll of the dice. I was actually hoping we'd get a lot bigger with Tis Marvellous. I noticed was a bit bigger earlier on, but being nibbled at people, the forgiving types like me, looking at that 4 times course and distance record combined with cutting the ground and almost on layman's terms thinking that would be enough. So, yeah, Tis Marvellous arrives after a couple of duck eggs, but with that outstanding course form, gets one last chance from me.
All righty. That's 3 shouts for Existent and Tis Marvellous. 210 is the Stayers race. I'm sitting this out. I thought this was really tough. Ed, you are with the very man who's backing up pretty quickly. About 10 days or so ago around at Galway.
Yeah, I mean, tentative selections, but if forced, I thought the very man was in the kind of win and place markets. I didn't think would be far away. Excuse me. Holly Doyle on board for Jessica Harrington team, an individual confirmed stamina, cutting the ground, no problem at all. Has been mixing, as you say, hurdles with flat, running on the flat at Galway. He's got some pretty good hurdling form. Went to all the big festivals during the spring. and was far from disgraced, especially Punchestown ran an absolute belter when runner up there in that 60-gram race. So all about stamina, this horse. And I thought in a race which was fairly wide open, I'm siding with a 9-year-old, as I say, with confirmed stamina in the locker. So tentative selection, but the very man for me, Tom.
9.0. The Grand Vizier is 9.0. Zoffi is 5.0, right at the top of the betting. Charlie and Steve agree. Charlie, I'll come to you first this time.
Yeah, Law of the Sea for me, winning place. I put him up at Goodwood. Again, he's a very much a confirmed stays further than this. But one, the ground had gone desperate at Goodwood. I think it was on the Friday. 2, I just thought he was right there up on the front end, and he almost travelled too strong. If he stopped the race 3 furlongs out, and you actually said it, I think, on the TV, Tom, a lot of them can look like they're going very well in this race and then fall out the back of the screen, that 2.5-mile race at Goodwood. And he very much did this. He was beat 45 lengths or something like that in the end. But 3 furlongs out, he looked like he was coming there to have every chance and just didn't see it out on really bad ground. He's good course form. He finished 4th behind a horse with no name at the Royal Meeting. Disappointed in the Northumberland Plate, but got struck into. And like I say, I just thought the race at Goodwood on the ground was attritional and was a non-event. Back on a track we know he runs well, back on some nicer ground, dropping down 1/2 a mile, the trip is no problem to him at all. And yeah, Law of the Sea, winning place. And Yalmarera as well was a pretty good jockey booking.
He knows what he's doing, doesn't he? And Steve, what do you want to add?
Yeah, spot on. I didn't realise he struck into it at Newcastle. I just thought he set too fast a pace. And so I'm running a line through those last two runs, and that gives him an excellent chance with that course form, because he also finished 5th in the Queen's Vase last year at Royal Ascot, or a couple of years ago.
All right, moving on to the 245. This is over 1.5 miles. La Yakel is 4.33, 5.0 for Pride of Priory is a reserve, 6.0 for Scampi and the Leap, 8.0. Bigger prices thereafter. I'll just kick off with 2. La Yakel, who I thought was very obvious, very lightly raced this year. And there was huge promise in it when just touched off last time. Got up £3 for it. And it's going to be similar sorts of conditions. And this is probably a slightly lesser contest. So I thought that was pretty obvious. The other one I want to chance at a big price is Soto Sizzler at 21.0. That was abominable last time. I don't know what on earth happened, but if you put a line through that and you go to the Bad Company form at Epsom, which is strong, where he raced on completely the wrong part of the track, he'd have a chance of £3 lower. So I think that horse is worth a bet, win and place. Charlie?
Yeah, I'm with you with La Yakel. I mean, again, Soto Sizzler, I think I put him up, or I certainly was when I backed him when I was down there. I thought it was a pretty quiet run. If you watch it back, I don't think he was given an unduly hard time of it. So I can definitely see that, Tom. But yeah, La Yakel, I thought was very obvious. It was a really good run the last day. He got carried a bit right. They pulled well clear of the third. Granted, I think he was sent off 5-4 favourite. So he obviously wasn't running as if the run was going to be needed. But you'd expect him to strip a little bit fitter and to come forward for the run. He's got the wide draw, which is always a good thing over 1.5 miles. And again, another excellent jockey booking.
Okay. Ed Quigley?
Yeah, I like last year's winner. I'm pretty keen on Pride of Priory to get the job done again. Frankie Dettori on board this time round. William Haggett's team on fire at the moment. And just looking at the weights, won this last year off 92. Obviously shot up on the back of that. Just tumbled back down to the same mark as when winning last year. So, yeah, yard flying, Dettori on board. Ground to be fine on the winning mark from last year. A lot to like about Pride of Priory in my view.
And Steve?
I think this is in the basket for Scampi, who I thought I wanted to take on La Yakel. I thought that the form of his wins last year and his reappearance run, I didn't think they were great at all. So Scampi has been running in much hotter races like the John Smith's Cup at York, when despite starting slowly, ran well to reach into 6th place. That was a good performance. And before that, had run really well in the Old Newton Cup when only beaten half a length. So, yeah, it brings in big, proper handicap form, and from if you go back to the first run of this season, beat Sam Cook at York, so it's very solid, and hopefully Safi Osborne will be able to get Scampi home.
Moving on to the 320 over a mile. It is the mile. Porotto, a regular over the mile here, though not necessarily the round one, is 3.5. Escobar is 7.5. Silent Film is 8.5. 9.0 Empire State of Mind. Bigger prices thereafter. Go on, Steve. I'll come straight back to you.
Yeah, I think that's important what you said. It's on the round course rather than the straight course, that some of these would much prefer the straight course. So the one that's overpriced for me is Rainbow Fire, who hasn't been at his best in the last two starts, but they've come in hot contests. The Bunbury Cup last time, and before that in the Victoria Cup, both on pretty testing ground. And I'm hoping that it's going to dry out a bit at Ascot. It's forecast to, so it could be good ground. That'd be perfect for Rainbow Fire, who the form of that one's win in April at Haydock has worked out really well. In fact, Biggles was behind that day, and it's a horse that I think stepping back up to a mile is pretty unexposed for. It's a 5-year-old. It's only had 9 starts and has only had 2 of them over a mile. But I think it might just suit Rainbow Fire, and about 17.0 winning place. I think that's a real good bet.
All right, Ed, you're sitting this one out. Charlie and I agree, but I'll let Charlie lead off because I'm hoping he's a bit more confident than I am.
I'm not so sure, mate. As in, I just thought like very open race and yeah, positive impact. He really productive first season last year and was kept busy, won a couple of starts and won impressively on his last start at Kempton. He went out to Dubai, and you might know more than me, Tom, about this, but he didn't really fire over there. It didn't seem to happen for him. He's been off a good while. But I think his mark of 100 is still very much workable. I think he's a real quality, potentially quality horse. I didn't think there was heaps of obvious pace. So hopefully drawn 1, he can get out and get on the front end and get a fairly unhassled time in front. And again, Haley Turner is one of those riders that seems to do really well at this meeting as well. So the trainer, Simon and Ed Crisford, again, are having a really productive time of it, going very well at the moment. So I just thought he just interested me, positive impact. I must admit, I thought he'd be a little bit bigger than he is. I thought when I looked earlier on, he was a double figure price, which he doesn't seem to be now, Tom.
No, he's not quite. I thought the angle was the pace. Yeah. That was what it was all about, really, because I couldn't find much else. So that's what I was hoping for. But yeah, I thought this was tough. He was really disappointing out there at Meydan. First start since, but if you go back to the UK form, there's encouragement there and on easy ground. So really the main pace angle I could find, and I'm hoping he'll stay there. So I want to be against Porotto because of the change of track. Ed, I'm going to come to you first on the classic, the 355, which Steve and Charlie are sitting out. Prices are as follows. Drumroll, please. 4.5 Rajasthan, Golden Move 6.0, 8.0 Regal Empire, 8.0 Rogue C. Like a Tiger is 8.5, 10.0, and bigger the rest. Over to you, Ed.
Yeah, that's a big price, I think, for Like a Tiger. We won really impressively at Newmarket back in April. Hasn't quite gone on since then, including when up to class to a listed race the time after that. But then I thought ran a pretty solid race in defeat behind Cumulonimbus at Yarmouth a couple of weeks ago. The interesting thing being that it's all about the trip here. For me, Tom, goes beyond 10 furlongs for the first time. And if you look at the way in which Like a Tiger was finishing at Yarmouth there, was only, I mean, if you stopped the race at the 2 furlong pole, you thought it was going to drop out the back of the television, but it was beating a length and a quarter at the line. I'm convinced, this horse can improve and flourish from middle distances. So up to 1.5 miles, off a mark of 92. Yeah, I quite like the claims here. Like a Tiger, Safi Osborne for James Ferguson. A couple of points too big in my view.
Okay, I'm with Intenso for Luke Morris, Jonathan Eddie Gosden. It's a bit of a guess up, really, but one on debut. Was then sent to the Fielden, went off at 5-1, and it was disappointing, having not really settled into the race. There was promise off the back of a break last time, first going a handicap off 87, and on the dam side, there's an absolute shed load of stamina. So, and is drawn wide, which you tend to want over this course and distance. It tends to be a plus, although this isn't the biggest field. So in Tinzo, drawn 10, up in trip should definitely suit on pedigree, and there's a handicap debutant off 87 is definitely a win and place price anyway. And the 430 is the sprint. 3 of us with selections in here, and prices are as follows. Quinault is 2.9, Washington Heights is 6.5. They do battle again. Vital Dubai 9.0, 11.0, and bigger the rest. Who is with Quinault? Nobody. Good. Steve, over to you.
Yeah, Washington Heights has got some of the strongest handicap form for 3-year-olds going, because he's finished runner-up and 4th behind Quinault. But at some point, he's going to get his revenge. He was only beaten ahead at York by Quinault when he showed real good pace that day. And I think maybe last time, the race didn't really pan out for him. He sat prominent, but just seemed to get tapped a little bit for a bit of speed. And I think Ascot might just suit this horse pretty much. Previous to finishing runner-up behind Quinault twice, he was runner-up behind Shaquille. So he's got absolutely rock-solid form, even though he's becoming a little bit frustrating. His circumstance in the horses he's been running against. And the change in the weights now, I think Washington Heights, with Holly Doyle in the saddle, which is a massive, massive plus, even though Luke Morris is on Quinault. I think Washington Heights, this is the day that he finally gets his revenge.
Charlie?
Yeah, I mean, Quinault as well, because he's been such a revelation, I think makes a lot of these probably possibly bigger prices than they'd be on a in any sort of normal race. It's just he's on such a roll. I came down with Zaman Jamil. I put him up last weekend, and he got upset in the stalls and was withdrawn at Goodwood. Might not have been the end of the world, because whether he'd have enjoyed the ground or not, I'm not sure. He was very impressive on his second start after being gelded at first. I think there's still plenty of upside in this horse, and yeah, I think at 11.0, 12.0, he's a really good win and place option in this race.
Yeah, I wanted to be against Quinault. I'll come to that in a bit more detail. But Vital Dubai, in a race, again, with an absolute shed load of pace, he can go forward, but he tends to be pretty patiently ridden. The Yard are going along great guns. They've been a bit on-off this season. And, is only having a 4th go and a handicap off the back of a win on the all-weather last time, but has got turf form, although the majority of it on quick ground. The one notable pool run was on heavy ground at Newbury when sent off favourite, but it's not going to be anything like that. So I thought it was a pretty safe win and place shout at 8.0 Vital Dubai. All right, we're done with our previews. Any other bets? Just you.